I worked for my local McDonald's for about 4 months. Yeah, it didn't last long. I like to believe that there's something better for me out there than fast food. Plus, this experience didn't make me want to stay. It's definitely the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me, trying to kiss ass and move up quickly. I let the managers know that I would cover any shift they needed me to, and I could fill in for any call-ins. I needed the money. The more hours, the better. Well, one night at around 8 p.m., just before my bedtime, I got a call from work. Someone from the night shift had called in very irritating. And tired, I hesitantly agreed to cover the shift and got up to get ready. I had never worked overnight before, not at that McDonald's, and not at any of my previous jobs. I was kind of excited. I mean, it was night. There would be at least half as many customers coming through, and the manager on duty was John, the most laid-back guy that worked there. Easy money when I arrived around 8:30. They were slammed. I clocked in and chiseled away at the mountain of C customers in the lobby by 10:30. The sudden wave had died down, and the building was mostly empty. The previous shift leader left me with nothing but a good luck. Even though this was my first night shift, so it was just me and John. He was busy checking drawers or something while I manned the drive-thru, the front counter and the grill. Needless to say, I was nervous if too many people pulled in. I was fucked. My drive-thru time would be horrid, so instead of remaining relaxed like I thought I would, I ended up so focused that my heart was pounding the whole night anyway at our restaurant. I'm not sure if it's the same for every Mickey D's. Our headsets will chime whenever someone pulls into the drive-thru. It's a kind of pixelated bell sound that gets very annoying, very fast. This is exactly what I heard all of a sudden. So naturally, I greeted the customer. "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you today?" I said with so much fake enthusiasm, it even made me sick. I never quite understood if it was a magnet or a scale that told us if a car drove through. But the microphone was on, ready to pick up the customer's voice as they ordered. Yet all I heard was white noise. Nobody picked up. Nobody spoke. I didn't even hear the rumble of an engine idling. It was as if no one was there. Now this wasn't too weird. We've had this happen a few times since I started. The thing can be triggered just by someone driving around the building or a person walking by. The thing needed fixed. That's for sure. I didn't want to know. Every time someone took out the trash in the back, as they rolled the bins over the drive-thru, after about 3 minutes of static, the mic clicked off, meaning whatever was on the wait was gone. Finally, no more annoying noise in my ear, but less than a minute later it clicked on again, that bell chiming loudly in my ear. I rolled my eyes and repeated my greeting. "Hi, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you?" And again, there was no reply. The mic stayed on longer. This time, though, I swear, at one point I could hear heavy breathing. I started to get freaked out at that moment, I was pretty sure. Someone was outside trying to mess with me. It turned off after about 10 minutes of me listening to nothing. I was tempted to take off the headset and make John wear it. But my be-all-I-can-be attitude got the better of me. I tried to distract myself. I started scrubbing the counters, which had already been wiped down, and checking to see if anything in the lobby needed restocked. But everything was fine. I needed to keep myself busy. There was just something so sinister about the darkness of the night just beyond those large lobby windows. When the bell chimed once again, I nearly fainted. I should have probably turned the volume down on that headset. Before I could say my shallow, meaningless greeting, I heard the loudest, blood-curdling scream the moment I heard this. Screech! I threw off my headset and backed away from it. What the hell was that? Shakily, I put my headset back on. I was pissed and terrified at the same time. Without another thought, I ran angrily out of the store and headed toward the drive-thru. I stood right next to the menu, and there was no one there but. Still, somehow, the static from my headset never disappeared. The mic was still going. Whatever made the drive-thru go off was still there. And then I heard it. "I see you," a slowly whispering voice coming from the mic. I ran back inside as fast as I possibly could. I had been standing right next to the mic. No one was there. No one could have possibly made that sound. There was no one that could have spoken those words to me. I ran back into the light and warmth of the building, and into the safety behind the counter I found John. He was at the manager's desk, head in his hand, while typing in dates on the upcoming schedule. "What the hell was that?" I said louder than I meant to be. He jumped in his chair and turned around. "Christ, man, you scared the hell out of me. What are you trying to pull?" I asked. "What are you talking about? I haven't done anything." He turned to continue typing on his computer. I kind of felt bad. I just interrogated my superior, the only fun superior that worked there. Shit. I walked up front and stood behind the counter, just waiting. It was about 1:30. When I looked at the clock again, we were about halfway through the graveyard shift. The night was going by so slow I ended up just standing in the drive-thru nook. That way, I could just play on my phone away from the view of the nearest camera. We had only 2 customers in the last hour, so it was even more slow than I thought it would be. So I just stood there, leaning against the counter by the POS computer, playing Clash of Clans and checking Facebook every so often. But suddenly, I felt cold air on my forearm. It gave me chills. I looked over toward the drive-thru window, and it was ever so slightly open. I didn't mind. I paid no attention and continued to invade random online folks' slam. I dropped my phone, breaking the screen. When it hit the ground, I nearly had a heart attack. My eyes darted all over, searching for the origin of that noise. The drive-thru window had been thrown wide open, but I had been standing right next to it. I hadn't heard anybody run off or walk up, and I definitely hadn't seen anybody. So who the fuck just opened the drive-thru window? I was done. I took my headset off and stood in the kitchen pretending to work, waiting for this terrible shift to end. Whether or not someone drove through the drive-thru, I didn't care anymore. I wasn't coming back after that night. The rest of the night, or morning, I guess, passed by without any further incidents. Never in my life have I encountered anything so strange and terrifying, standing out there right next to the microphone. That cold night, then hearing those words whispered to me. I will never forget it. And I will do anything in my power to avoid having to work fast food. And I am no longer a fan of horror movies. I know I'm in denial, but I pray every day that what I heard that night was nothing but a prankster. Not a ghost or a demon that felt like taunting me, but if that's really what it was, I'm scared that there's nothing stopping it from happening again. Remember when McDonald's had those jungle gyms with the ball pits? Yeah. For the longest time, those were the hot spot for children to jump around and just have a shit ton of fun. Hell, I even remember as a child playing with my temporary friends in those balls. Every time we'd go to McDonald's, I'd find other kids I hadn't met before. And we jump into that rainbow-colored pit now. Though with a child of my own, I've heard plenty of horror stories that will make me keep my kids away from the habit trails altogether. Well, actually, it's not so much the horror stories I've heard that scare me. It's an experience that happened not too long ago. I try not to let my kids eat fast food. It's disgusting, it's unhealthy, and it's addictive. Eating fast food in and of itself is a terrible habit. But there is one thing it does have that tempted me to treat my daughter and son to a couple of Happy Meals one day, convenience around noon. I was enjoying my day off with the kids. My wife was at work, and I hadn't bought groceries like I was supposed to. Not to mention, I was exhausted from work. This was my first day off in a very long while. So when my son Chris started begging for McNuggets, I thought, what the hell? And stopped on by our local artery clogging experts that McDonald's was extremely packed. There had to have been 4 dozen people in there, either lined up with waiting to order, or sitting down awkwardly staring at each other expectantly the moment the kids saw the play area through the windows in the back. They took off. They hadn't even told me exactly what they wanted to eat. Figured, though, they probably only wanted to stop by McDonald's to play on the habit trail. After several minutes, I was finally up to order. I got them both a couple of nugget Happy Meals and headed to the play area and sat down at a bench. The kids frolicked and played all over the damn thing with 10 other children, most of which looked like they hadn't been bathed in a week. As you can probably tell, I'm not very fond of the McDonald's scene, but again, I was desperate that day. The big hunk of plastic tubes and ladders could babysit my kids for an hour. I was fine with that. The kids played for about 10 minutes before they finally came down to eat their food. We were enjoying our meal when I noticed something rather strange. There was a chubbier child in the ball pit. He was red-headed with curly hair. What was strange was the expression on his little face. He looked like he was about to cry at any moment. He was frowning and tearing up, his eyes locked on one point in the room. I looked to see what he was staring at. It was just a glass window with lightly busy midday traffic just beyond it, so I just kept eating my food, trying not to pay any mind to the motionless kid, but for every bite I took, I was more and more worried curious. I mean, my kids were here too. If this kid was crying, I'd like to know why eventually he pulled himself up out of the ball pit and began to walk back over to a woman that must have been his mother. But on the walk over, I noticed the kid's pants were down, and he started pulling them back up. My first thought was, Jesus Christ, this kid just shit in the ball pit. And at that point, I was ready to leave. My appetite was gone. The appetite I barely had in the first place. I let my kids finish eating, though not saying a word about what I saw once they were done. I told them we had to go, and despite their whining efforts to make me stay, I made them get back in the car. Well, later that week, I was reading the newspaper. I made the mistake of drinking hot coffee. When I read a certain article, I literally sped it out on myself. When I read it at that very same McDonald's that we had gone to, a man had been arrested for, get this, sexually assaulting children while hiding in the ball pit. Holy shit. Luckily, my kids had never gone in there themselves that day, but they had been so close to it. And in the headline photo, there was a woman being interviewed. She was crying. It was that chubby boy's mother. I remembered her face, and that red hair this moment terrified me, shocked me more than I had ever felt before. I feared for my children and for the society as a whole. We let our kids run around, play, and trust that the world built around us is safe and protected. But that day, right under my nose, was someone that within seconds could have ruined my children's lives, forced a lifetime of therapy on them, and took away their normally. From then on, I am so grateful that my kids were spared, that I can only pray that that poor little boy grew up all right, and that that perverted fucker got what he deserved. Also, if you're wondering about the case itself, this happened around '89, and I've tried a few times these days to find it online, but I guess it's just not on the web. Doubt the story if you want. But as a father, I'm not spreading this to tell some disgusting lie. I'm telling you this story as a warning and a cautionary tale, no matter how you've raised your kids. Stay close to them and keep your eyes open.